There's a quiet kind of presence on the internet, a type of person who moves through the digital world without ever stepping fully into its light. They scroll in silence, read in silence, observe in silence. They absorb everything, yet leave almost nothing behind. No selfies. No face reveals. No curated moments for strangers to evaluate. Just a calm, steady existence that slips between the noise unnoticed. Most people never stop to wonder why. Why someone chooses to stay unseen in a world built on exposure. Why someone who feels so deeply, thinks so richly, understands so clearly, rarely feels the need to show their face. It's easy to assume fear or shyness or insecurity, but the truth feels far more intricate than that. Their silence is not a hiding place. It is a home. A way of existing that doesn't require a spotlight to feel real. For them, visibility carries weight. Not the weight of judgment, but the weight of being interpreted, reduced, named, understood too quickly. There is something about showing their face that feels unfamiliar. Like stepping into a version of themselves the world expects rather than the one they authentically are. So they hover at the edge of the digital stage, watching the world perform while they choose quietness over presentation. This isn't avoidance. It's alignment, a choice that feels honest to who they are. They don't need to be seen to exist. They don't need to display themselves to feel alive. In their world, invisibility is not emptiness. It is meaning. A choice rooted in depth, not fear. A way of living that says, I am here, even if you cannot see me. Most people build themselves through the eyes of others. They measure who they are by how they are seen, by reactions, by comments, by the quiet applause of digital attention. In a world where visibility has become a currency, identity often grows outward first, inward second. A face posted becomes a form of proof. A like becomes a tiny reflection of worth. Each upload becomes a way of asking, do you see me the way I hope you do? But there is another kind of person, someone who builds their identity from the inside out. Their sense of self doesn't come from mirrored screens or visible approval. It comes from quiet awareness, from private thoughts, from meaningful inner moments no camera could ever capture. Their identity is not a performance. It's a feeling, a landscape they've cultivated in solitude. They don't need to be photographed to feel present. They don't need digital affirmation to feel real. Their worth is not measured in views or visibility, but in understanding, the understanding they have of themselves. When they choose not to post their face, it isn't an absence. It's a declaration. My identity does not depend on being observed. Where others look outward for confirmation, they look inward for direction. And in that inwardness, something rare happens. They begin to feel whole without the world's reflection. They know who they are even when no one else is watching. For these individuals, authenticity is not something they put on display, it's something they live. They have an instinctive dislike for anything that feels performative. The moment a camera turns toward them, something shifts inside. The act of posing, adjusting, preparing, presenting. It doesn't feel like expression. It feels like acting, like stepping into a version of themselves created for the eyes of others rather than the truth that exists when no one is watching. They prefer honesty over aesthetics. They prefer presence over presentation. They prefer the rawness of real connection over the polished clarity of a curated image. To them, expression isn't about how they look, it's about how they feel, how they think, how they move through the world. Their authenticity is emotional, not visual. It lives in their conversations, in their writing, in the way they show up quietly for the people they care about. When they speak, they express their depth through meaning, not angles. When they listen with a kind of sincerity that can't be captured in pixels. Their thoughts have weight, their emotions have dimension, their presence has texture, and all of it feels too alive, too vivid, too complex to be flattened into a single frame. A photo might capture their face, but it cannot capture their truth. And that's why they don't feel drawn to posting themselves. Not because they lack confidence, but because their authenticity refuses to be simplified. They know that some things are too real, too intricate, too beautifully human to ever fit inside a square. For people who choose not to post their photos, Privacy isn't a sign of fear, it's a form of emotional strength. It is the quiet confidence of someone who understands that not everything meaningful needs to be displayed, and not every part of themselves belongs to the public. They know the difference between expression and exposure, and they refuse to confuse the two. Expression is honest. It's natural. It's a sharing that comes from within. Exposure is different. Exposure is when a moment stops being yours the second you show it. And they feel that deeply. They understand that once an image of them enters the digital world, it breaks away from their control. It becomes open to interpretation, judgment, distortion, shaped not by who they are, but by what others project onto them, and so they protect themselves not by hiding, but by choosing with intention who gets access to their real presence. They think carefully about what parts of themselves should be shared and what parts deserve to remain sacred. This isn't avoidance, it's maturity. It's the emotional intelligence of someone who knows their own boundaries and respects them. While others chase visibility, they chase clarity. While others seek attention, they seek peace. Their boundaries are not walls. They are doors that open only for those who approach with sincerity. And in a world where everything is on display, that kind of intentional privacy becomes a rare and powerful strength. For these individuals, posting a photo doesn't feel frightening, it feels personal. Their face isn't just a picture to them. It's intimate information. It's a window into their presence, their energy, their humanity. And they don't give that away casually. While the world treats visibility like something simple, something everyone should share without hesitation, they feel the weight of it. To them, showing their face is not a routine action. It's a moment of vulnerability. And vulnerability in their world is sacred, not something to be scattered across feeds or offered to strangers who will scroll past it in seconds. They choose carefully who gets to see them, not physically, but emotionally. They give their presence only to the people who earn it, the people whose sincerity feels steady, the people who don't treat connection like a performance. They would rather be known deeply by a few than be recognized superficially by millions. It's not about hiding. It's about honoring the softness within them that only opens in safe hands. Honoring the truth that not every part of their life belongs to the public. Honoring the quiet belief that their identity is something precious, not content to be consumed. They don't fear being seen. They fear being reduced. And so they protect the parts of themselves that feel the most real, not by locking them away, but by sharing them only where they are genuinely valued. People who choose not to post their photos often come from quiet, psychological histories that shaped them long before the digital world existed. Their decision isn't born from insecurity, it's rooted in experience. In the subtle ways, their inner world learned to navigate visibility. Some of them are internal thinkers, the type of souls who feel most at home inside their mind. They discover themselves through reflection, through meaning, through the quiet processing of life's moments. Images don't feel like their language. Thoughts do. And because their identity grows inward first, the idea of capturing themselves visually feels unnecessary. Almost foreign to others were the over-observed children, the ones who grew up being noticed a little too much. Maybe in a loud family, maybe in a judgmental environment, maybe in a space where every move was watched or commented on. They learned early that being seen doesn't always feel safe. So, as adults, they choose a softer presence. Not hidden, just unpressured, unobserved, free. Then there are the empaths, the people who absorb emotions the way others absorb light. These individuals feel overtaken by others' perceptions. A single look, a careless comment, an unintended expression, it all lands deeply. And because of that sensitivity, the idea of putting their face into a space filled with millions of opinions feels overwhelming, not empowering. They protect their emotional bandwidth by choosing when and how they are witnessed. And some are intentional minimalists, people who dislike unnecessary visibility. They prefer simplicity, clarity, and meaningful connection. Posting their face feels like adding noise to a life they've worked hard to keep peaceful. They aren't avoiding expression. They are eliminating what doesn't align with their values. Each of these archetypes carries a quiet strength, a quiet depth, a quiet intention. Their choice not to post their photos is not a flaw. It's a form of self-understanding, a way of saying, I know myself well enough to choose the path that feels true to me. There's a quiet beauty in being unseen, a freedom that slips between the noise of the digital world. For some people, not showing their face is not an absence, it is a choice. A way of moving through life without the weight of constant observation, a way of protecting a softness they don't want shaped by strangers' eyes. Their identity isn't built through pixels or photographs. It's formed in the depth of their thoughts, in the honesty of their feelings, in the private moments that no camera could ever truly capture. They understand something most people forget. Presence doesn't require presentation. You don't have to be visible to be real. You don't have to be seen to exist. You don't have to share everything to live fully. Some lives are lived inward, first, quietly, gently, sincerely, and that does not make them any less meaningful. If you're someone who has always felt a little out of place in the spotlight, someone who hesitates before showing yourself to the world, someone who feels more authentic in the spaces where you aren't being watched, know this: there is nothing wrong with your pace. There is nothing wrong with your silence. There is nothing wrong with your way of being. Your path doesn't need to match anyone else's rhythm. Your presence doesn't need to be proven. Your story doesn't need to be displayed to be real. You are allowed to exist in the ways that feel true to you, and maybe in a world obsessed with visibility, choosing to stay unseen is its own quiet kind of courage. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that they don't have to shine loudly to shine at all.